Hi, I'm Miriam from the University of Waterloo Arts faculty. Today I'm joined with Amy, University of Waterloo Arts Alumni. Hey, Amy, how are you?
Hey, doing well. How are you?
I'm doing good, thank you. Would you mind telling me a little bit about yourself first and I guess your connection to the Faculty of Arts?
Yeah, so currently I am an urban planner working in San Francisco at Chinatown Community Development Center, which is an affordable housing developer based in San Francisco, Chinatown. Um, that was the kind of boring LinkedIn who am I, but that's a lot of what I do right now. And my connection to the Faculty of Arts is I graduated from UW in 2017. And I was in the Arts and Business Co-op program, and I did a double major in English rhetoric and economics, kind of a mix of two very different degrees. And I was in the co-op program as well. And I guess to like the faculty, I was pretty involved. Like I was co-president or president of the Arts and Business Society at a certain point. I don't know what they're called now, but back in my day, they were called FOC, like the Federation Orientation Committee for the Arts Faculty Orientation Week, UWaL.
Oh,
And I'm trying to think of the other things. And then I was also valedictorian in my last year. So just a variety, a mix of different things.
that's awesome. So it seems like you're really involved in the school for sure. So what made you choose Waterloo Arts? Like, how did you know it would be the right fit for you?
Yeah, I mean, with things like this, when you're 18 and trying to figure out life, you don't always know that what you're going to do or the choices you're going to make are going to be the right ones for you. And I think like I had a lot of questions about what I wanted to do when I was going to university. And, I was kind of torn between like what I thought I wanted to do, which is journalism, and things that, I was getting from external influences like my parents who, for example, wanted me to do policy and such like that. I knew that I really wanted to do English, and I knew that I really wanted to do, in a sense, like political science. So what I really wanted, I think, was something that was very flexible. And I wasn't actually at all intending to apply to Waterloo. But I think on the way back from like my Western visit, I was just like, why not? Like, I know so many people who like go to Waterloo. Why not just like take a look down since we're like in the area, and coming from Ottawa, it's like a bit of a distance. So then when I went on campus, I was like, oh, I kind of like the look of this. Like, I kind of like how this feels. And then when I was reading the brochure for Arts and Business Co-op, I was like, I feel like this is giving me the flexibility that I think I was looking for. And the fact that it was also like, also had the co-op program. And so, kind of gave you that like work experience was something that I think also really attracted me to the program. So I think that was, it was just a lot of these really little decisions, but ultimately I think I was looking for something really flexible, and I felt like the program was going to give that to me.
Yeah, for sure. I've definitely been through that too. I really enjoy the flexibility. Waterloo wasn't even my top choice either, but I'm glad I made that decision because there's just so much flexibility in the classes you take and the whole art side and the business side that you take. It's just really great. What would you say to someone that's I guess thinking about arts at Waterloo?
Yeah, I think, well, like you said yourself, like the flexibility part of it is, I think, it, like going through my program, and making the decision to, I think, double major in the programs that I did. Um, I think it's kind of reflective of the fact that like I didn't really know what it was I wanted to, and I just knew I wanted like to cast a wider net in terms of the skills that I would have and stuff like that. And so I would say to like someone who was also thinking about going to UW or is at Waterloo and is in like first day 1A, like 2A or something, like I think just be flexible to anything that might come your way, and take advantage of a lot of the opportunities that are there. Extracurriculars in particular, I think were really important for, I think, even just like my development as a person. But also in many different ways contributed to, I think, like the professional and I feel like the academic journeys I ended up taking as well.
Yeah, for sure. Extracurriculars are actually really important too, because not only does it look good on a resume, but also it helps you build the skills you need in the future, like teamwork and collaboration and, all those different skills. So I think that's really, really great. What's your current job position right now?
I'm an urban planner right now, which is a bit of a pivot from, I think, being in arts because at Waterloo, there is a planning program, and it's in the Faculty of Environment. So I have no regrets of having done like a BA and having been an ARBIS in my undergrad, because I feel like when I did decide that I wanted to do something that was a little bit more community planning oriented and community oriented, the stuff that I learned in my undergrad was really the foundation for, I think, my ability to communicate, that English degree. But then also it was like all these other different things in terms of understanding and thinking about, I think, the socioeconomic like factors that I think influence the ways in which we live. And so I went into planning because, for a lot of different reasons. I think just like personal lived experiences. And I think that was kind of where my interests were starting to trend. And I did end up going to planning school. But it really, I think, was founded in a lot of the experiences that I had when I was in my undergrad and when I was in arts.
Mm-hmm. And you said you were admitted in the co-op program, right?
Yes.
So like, was it tough getting that first job as a co-op student, like for your first co-op term?
Yeah, I think in preparation, I was like trying to reflect back on like that experience, because now it feels like it was a while ago. And I think that I was, if I remember correctly, I was like pretty lucky in that it wasn't necessarily the hardest the first time I applied. The first time I went through that application process, I think I was able to find a job in one of the first few rounds in like what was then JobMine. I know it's different now. But I definitely, that was, I think, like I attribute a lot of that to the fact that I was really lucky. I was mostly A, just luck. And then B, also, I think like using a lot of the preparation and like the resources that CACA has. But it's hard for everybody in many different ways. I think like the first round was hard in terms of like it was a little scary. I'd never done anything like that before. And then the second one was hard because it was like other emotional additional factors that were impacting that.
Yeah, and I definitely relate to the whole first co-op term stress. I wasn't able to find my first co-op job, and I mean, it wasn't too bad because Waterloo is super flexible. You don't have to have a job for every single co-op term. There's a certain number of requirements, but I think that's really, really great that like if you missed one, it's not the end of the world. I ended up taking, a few courses to kind of fast track a little bit. So it all worked out. Like it wasn't too bad. Waterloo is super flexible with that. So I think that's really awesome. So could you tell everyone a little bit about your career path? I know you kind of touched up on it a little bit, but can you explain how your program helped you?
Yeah, like I did kind of refer to it briefly. I don't know, kind of sum up what was a very winding journey. I guess like I said, I double majored in or joint honored in English and economics, and also like had the business elements of it. And the co-ops I had were like really important, and I really valued them. And I think like the reason why I valued them so much is because while I was doing them, I was like, there are elements of this where I feel like it doesn't really resonate with me. Like I was federal government first one, and then I was like working at a provincial level on the second one, and I was working in like tech in the third one. So it's something completely different. Mm-hmm. And I realized I really missed, I think, the working with people, being grounded in community, like wanting to see kind of the impacts of the work that I was doing. And around that time, I was thinking a lot about, I had entered like, I think this kind of like case competition with a few other friends, some of whom were engineers, another one who was, in another fellow English student, Catherine, shout out to Catherine Vendries. And we had ended up winning, I think, this competition that was about like solving these urban issues and in the large urban areas of Ontario. And we won the affordable housing category. And I think at the end, when we went to kind of like the showcase at the end where they brought in all of like the winners and the finalists, like I was like, all these like solutions and issues are so, they resonate, like I feel something. And I was also thinking a lot about, I think, my own identity as like an Asian Canadian person. And I think thinking about like how we make space, how we make communities in these different cities. And so after I graduated from UW, I ended up going back to Ottawa and working for my city councilor in kind of the neighborhood where I ended up doing high school. And I think that was like a reiteration to me that cities is something I was really interested in, working in these communities. And then after that, I was really lucky to be accepted to UCLA for their planning program. So I ended up moving to LA, where I was for 3 years. And I think through there, I think really built up, I think, a lot of the skills that were influenced a lot by the things that I learned in Waterloo. And then also I think led to kind of the organizing, and I think like the working with community work that I ended up doing when I was in my graduate program. And then that then led to, I think, my current job now, which is like working as an urban planner in San Francisco, Chinatown. So kind of a very winding way of getting to where I am, but I think very influenced by the experiences that I had. And especially with the co-ops that I had as well, because it's just as important to know like what doesn't stick with you or resonate with you as it is to know like what does. So really value those opportunities because it helped me learn a little bit more about myself.
Yeah, that's awesome. And what are some tips that you can offer to a student who's, trying to find their first job placement?
Yeah, like I think I mentioned before, like take advantage of those resources. In particular, I think like I was looking at the resume. I think I got a lot of really, really, really good advice on like resumes and I think cover letters that I still use to this day. Like to this day, I help a lot of people, I support a lot of people in like helping them out with their cover letters and resumes. Because if there's anything Waterloo teaches you how to do, it's to crank out a lot of resumes and cover letters. So definitely take advantage of that. Really take advantage, I think, of also practicing, I think, on interviewing. I don't know if they still have it where it was like you could practice like interviewing through Learn. I don't even know if Learn is still what you use.
So we have a program on Waterloo Works, I believe, where you can have a mock interview.
Yes,
Yes.
exactly. I found that really helpful too. And I think it was also just like, supporting your friends and each other through a process that can be really difficult. And also like just keeping that perspective that like you're not a job and that a job is not reflective of your worth, like whether or not you get a co-op or if you don't get a co-op or like you kind of struggle getting it, like that's not all reflective, I think, of your worth as a person, as a family member, all these different things. And like everything will work out in the end. Which I think I did not tell myself when I was in school and wish that I had told myself. It's something I wish I could have told myself to be kinder about. But definitely, like, I think it comes down to, I think, taking advantage of those resources, keeping that perspective. And I guess something else is like, being intent, like trying to think about like what it is that you might want to do or what are kind of the skills or the one or two things that you might want to hone in a specific co-op program, and thinking about what are the things that you can do to get there. So like for example, I think in my last term I ended up working at a tech company, and like this is very different than government, what I was doing before. But because I was like, I think I want to be intentional in seeing whether or not I would fit into like working in tech, I really like took that opportunity and like the semesters before to, I think, build up, I think, a little bit more of that marketing stuff and like doing a little bit more like entrepreneurship things. And I think allowed me to, I think, transition into that a little bit more easily. But just seeing if there's like something you're interested in exploring. And if that's not what you like, then that's okay. At least you don't like that now.
Yeah, for sure. And I know I hear sometimes that the job hunting process can be competitive when you graduate. So was there anything that you did that I guess made you stand out to the employers?
Yeah, I think I was really lucky when I graduated from Waterloo, where I took advantage of like personal relationships that I had. So the person who ended up being my employer in the year between grad school and undergrad was someone that I had was my city councilor in Ottawa. She had run this leadership program in Ottawa for like young women in politics. And I'm so lucky that this worked out, but that was like those were the two co-op terms when I was in Ottawa. So I was very lucky that I was able to take advantage of that. But I think like maybe this goes back to the question you're asking before. It was like these relationships, and I think, meeting people, and I think putting yourself out there was incredibly important for me, and kind of not just this opportunity, but a lot more of my opportunities down the road. you're not going to connect with everybody, and that's super okay. But even if you're able to just, I think, like, make those relationships with people, or just that one person, like, you never know when that person is, you never know when you're going to be able to help that person, or when that person is going to be able to help you down the road. And so, for me, it was very much like relationship building, I think, is something that was really important. And I think, like, um relationship building, and then the asking is like, just ask, ask. Because I only got to talking to her because someone else was like, well, why don't you, this is what you're interested in, why don't you ask for a job? And I was like, yeah. Why don't I ask her for a job?
Yeah, it
And
doesn't
then I
hurt,
did.
right?
Exactly. And then and I was just really lucky at that point that she was looking for someone, and then I ended up being hired. So it was very, very, very fortunate.
Yeah, that's really great. And speaking of
Yeah.
relationships, were there any connections that you made in Waterloo that helped your career path, or I guess help you grow to be who you are to this day?
I mean, like, a lot of the friends that I made, I think, are people that I still continue to consider my friends. And I think, like, um, you know, really contribute a lot to, I think, my personal growth as a human being. And I think that in many ways was more important to me than my career. Like, I think the career element of it, because I kind of shifted away from, I think, what I was doing before, it was a little bit hard to carry that over directly. But I think, like, just even like those friendships and having that was really important.
Yeah. Once you graduated, what advantages did you feel that the Waterloo experience gave you that I guess made you stand out against competitors? I know you mentioned that there were a lot of different extracurriculars that you did. Was there anything else? Or if you want to touch up a little bit more about that?
I think, like, learning to write cover letters and resume,
Yeah.
learning how to look for jobs. Honestly, that was a big thing, because I've um, uh, I just, like, learning how to carry yourself through, I think, a job or interview process. I feel like I was really prepared for that because of everything that I did in co-op. And I feel like that was, like, one of the biggest things that has really helped me.
Hmm. And last question, what's your favorite memory from the University of Waterloo? Like, is there anything that you miss about being a student or even about on campus? Just anything at all that you miss?
I had a lot of really good times there. And I think some of the feelings I think I miss the most, I don't know if it's like one specific memory, but it's just like hanging out with my friends, like, super late at night in, like, the SLC, like, when we were doing homework. So, it was just like the little moments like that, I think, especially in my last year, that I still think about very fondly to this day. Just, like, hanging out with my friends, and, like, I think kind of almost being in a bubble in a way, where it's like, we're worrying about co-op and we're worrying about school, but it was just like a very very sweet moments. I think just being, like, young and stupid and in your early 20s.
I know that like friend groups can be super supportive as well, even though you're all like hanging out, being crazy and all that, you still have those moments of supporting each other. And I think that's really, really great to have. And friends are really, really important to have, especially in university, because like the whole supportive thing, like you don't want to be alone. I guess like, especially in first year, everyone's alone at first. So students, shouldn't be afraid of making friends or shouldn't worry about, oh, what if this person doesn't like me and all that. So they're all in the same boat. Everyone's new. So yeah, I think making friends is super, super important.
Yeah, and especially during COVID, right? More than ever.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. So that was the last question. I want to thank you so, so much for taking the time to talk to me today. It was really great getting to know you and your Waterloo experience and like your career path and all that. So thank you so much.
Of course.